25th of October 25, it's Saturday, and 2 days ago there was a Senedd by-election in Wales, in Caerphilly. The Senedd is a Welsh parliament, and this has been a Labour seat for, well, since the Welsh Assembly started in 1999, and it's been Labour for, 26 years then. But also the area has been Labour voting for Westminster, I think since 1917 or something, or 1918, so 107 years or something. And Labour lost it. They get trounced by Plaid Cymru and Reform, both taken. It was a big turnout as well. I'll go through this later on. I'm just showing you, first of all, giving you the background. But I'll go through this later on. To give you an idea of how the country is at the moment, I'm talking about United Kingdom. Oh no, actually this is a Caerphilly result. So Caerphilly won it. Plaid Cymru, the Welsh National Party, 47%, up 19. Reform 36%, up 34. They thought they would win it on the day, and it looks like to me really all the naive left get out and voted for as Plaid as the anti-reform party, basically. I would call them the left voters, the useful idiots, really. No offence meant, that's what I actually think of, But, and then you've got Labour at 11%, which I think is their lowest ever, possibly in modern times, in a sort of mainline election. I'm talking about the Westminster or the Welsh Parliament or Scottish Parliament. 11%, down 35. And the Tories are 2%, and nobody's even talking about them. They're down 15%. Almost wiped out. That must be their worst result ever, really, in Britain. And the Greens, the Tories have been around. They're the oldest party in the world, I think. They could be like since the 1850s or something. Before that they were sort of the Whig Party or whatever. And you've got the Greens on 2%, so Zach Polanski being the new leader didn't have any impact, really. I think all their voters probably voted Plaid Cymru on the night, and the Lib Dems on 2%, so they were absolutely nowhere as well. But they only get 3% the last time, so that was just the usual for them. And thanks to Stats for Lefties for their excellent X channel. To give you an idea of how Great Britain is voting at the moment, this Find Out Now poll, they're always an outlier. They always have Reform higher than the rest and Labour lower. But personally, I think they're probably getting it right. I think they use a different model for their polling. So they've got Reform at 32% this week, Tories 17%, Labour 16%, and that's up 1. So they were down at 15%. The Greens at 15%, which I think is probably correct, and the Lib Dems at 12%. So really, this is the other ones have got Reform at, say, between 26 and 29%. Tories round about the same as 17%. Labour maybe 20%, 22%, which I think is too high, really. Greens maybe 10% or whatever. Lib Dems about the same. Anyway, on to this Caerphilly seat. Really, this is sort of groundbreaking, really, because this place, like I say, has been Labour since sort of 1918 or something, and Labour have been winning, say, over 50% of the votes. I think it's a sort of former mining town, quite close to Cardiff, I'm not sure. But, yeah, it looks like the end, and it looks like Wales is going for Reform quicker than Scotland. Scotland's going that way. I saw a poll and Find Out Now, I think they were at 23%, and say a month before they were at 21%. It looked to me like Nicola Sturgeon was thinking, there was a by-election in Hamilton for the Scottish Parliament, and Reform done well at 26% or something, but they ended up third. Labour get 31%, SNP get 29 or something, Reform get 26, but 26% in Hamilton means there's been a major shift, because that's Labour and SNP country. So for Reform to be in it, it looks like Scotland's going to change. People have said it, they thought it was a one-off. maybe Nicola Sturgeon thought that, I don't know. That was back in May. Then there wasn't an election in Scotland for 3 months or something until the Scottish Parliament came back from their holidays, their 3-month holiday or whatever. And in the first week, I think we had a poll, find out now or something, and it was actually a bit awkward because you couldn't really tell, because they were asking about the Scottish Parliament where you get 2 votes, you get a constituency and you get the regional. And for the regional, I think they were 21%. And then the one after that, I think they were 23% for the regional. I think that's a better thing. Some people think that for that survey, people thought it was who was your second vote for. They thought the first one was the constituency, which is right. But they thought maybe the first one was your first preference and the second one was your second. Because, it's quite confusing, even though, I understand that it's like, in a 9 times table or something, you need a bit of thought. And it's not like 1 and 1 is 2, but once you understand it, you get a constituency vote, which is a waste of time, the first past the post thing. And then you get a regional vote, which is a regions of Scotland, where you get to pick from a big number. And they use some sort of STV thing, single transferable vote thing, to work out people who will get parties that will get a place in that, So, and I think Wales is going to be a totally proportional representation next year when they have their thing. They've scrapped the old first past the post, so this might be the last first past the post thing in the Senate, unless another seat comes up before the main election next year. So there we go. So we've got Plaid Cymru. Personally, I think this is an anti-reform vote, So I wouldn't take anyone from this, although it does look like Wales is going to be between Reform and Plaid Cymru, the way things are going. Plaid Cymru are more socialist than Labour, so really if the people were really lefties, they should have been voting Plaid Cymru decades ago. But I think they see Labour as a sort of football fan thing, you keep voting for your football team until you feel stupid for doing so, and I think it's got to that point now. But Plaid Cymru are even worse. If they're worried about the way the country's changing in terms of one issue, Plaid Cymru are even worse than Labour on it. So I think there's going to be a lot of people who regret that, and eventually they're going to be very angry at Plaid Cymru and they're going to vote Reform. But the way people are talking, there was a poll 2 days before the election and Reform were in the lead by about I think it was about 42%, and Plaid were at 38%. And Reform feel now that worked against them because it motivated anti-reform people to come out and vote, because the turnout was 50%, I think, over 50%. So that is really high for any sort of election. Never mind. There was more people voted for it than at the Welsh Senate election in 2021 or whenever it was. They're like Scotland. They only get to vote every 5 years. That's how our democracy works. The leaders say, we're a democracy. We're going to let you vote for party hampers every 5 years. It's really kind of us. So here's looking at some stats anyway on this seat. Plaid Cymru won the seat with a majority of 11.4%. This is the first time Plaid has ever won the Caerphilly Senate seat or its predecessor Labour-held constituency in any Welsh or UK parliamentary election since 1918. So, in the general election, it's been Labour since 1918, and it looks as if they're going to lose that. It really looks as if Labour are going to be wiped out in Wales, and well done to Wales. I hope Scotland hurries up, because everyone will end up voting Reform that feels that way, on one issue. We should really be voting as if it's a referendum now on one issue, really. Forget all the other policies. You've got to get a message, and you've got to get rid of all the Labour, Tory MPs, Lib Dem, Greens. You've got to get rid of them all, really. Vote them out. Historic Labour collapse. Labour suffered a devastating defeat, falling from 46% of the vote in the 2021 Senate election to just 11% and finishing a distant third. This is seen as an end to over a century of Labour dominance in the area. Yeah, I think so. You can never really tell, you know. I'm not sure who's still voting for him. Maybe it's really old people who have just voted that way all the time. You know, I can't imagine young people voting for him, even if they're very left. You know, because I would expect them all to go to the Green Party or your party when it finally comes around, Jeremy Corbyn's party. Um, so, huge Reform UK surge. Reform UK's vote share increased dramatically from around 2% in 2021 to 36%, securing second place. So when you've got that happening in a place like Caerphilly, I don't think that's really to do with centre-right general politics or anything like that. You know, that's to do with one or two issues. And one thing they're saying, like a sort of talisman mistake by the Welsh Labour, was their 20-mile-an-hour zone that they wanted to bring in. And I totally agree with that. I can see that because if you've ever tried to drive at 20 miles an hour, it's very difficult because it's really slow. I mean, an illegal e-biker can go faster than that, you know. An e-biker who steals phones and really has got a motorbike, they haven't really got a thingy. They're going at 25, 30 miles an hour on their e-bike without pedalling. And meanwhile, the rest of us have to go at 20 miles an hour, you know. So really, it showed in how out of touch they were. They were just keeping, because they keep getting told if you take the speed limit down, less people will die. And you know, you could keep going that, but why not make it 5 miles an hour then? You know, 20 miles an hour is just totally ridiculous. I mean, any time I've been in a 20 mile an hour zone, there's one bit between Fort William and Mallaig. We've got to go 20 mile an hour. There's been a huge queue behind me, and I'm guessing they're all locals, you know. The only reason I'm doing 20 an hour is in case there's a speed camera or something, you know, I don't know. But anyway, Plaid to Labour swing. The swing from Labour to Plaid Cymru was approximately 27%. So a lot of people were just going straight from Labour to Plaid. So these were people who still vote left, I suppose, you know, which is disappointing. I would call them the useful idiots and the naive, the sort of buffered naive. They've not had a situation yet where they've thought, oh my God, Wales is gone, you know. That hasn't happened to them yet, you know. So what have we created, you know, especially Labour and Tory governments since after the war? And high turnout. The turnout was 50.4%, which is notably high for a Senate by-election, and higher than the 46.6% national turnout in the 2021 Senate election. So that's the national turnout. I'm guessing it's not just for Caerphilly there. They're talking about the Welsh Senate election. So it was even higher than that. So there was a lot of motivated people. The higher turnout suggests significant motivation among voters. And the Tory collapse. The Tory vote share plummeted from 17% in 21 to a mere 2%, suggesting a substantial number of their previous voters shifted to Reform UK. Tactical voting. The result is widely interpreted as being heavily influenced by tactical voting, with voters who wish to stop Reform UK seemingly consolidating behind the Plaid Cymru candidate Lindsay Whittle, who was a strong local figure. Yeah, it's really disappointing. You know, I see these people as useful idiots, naive useful idiots, you know, and they're in denial, really, I would say. You know, that's what I would say. Useful idiots in denial, because they're going to be the most hysterical in 1 or 2 year times about the way Wales has changed. And yeah, looking at this, like I say, Reform, even in the morning, they seem to feel that they had won it. Some are saying that it's because of the postal vote. I don't know why that would be. I'm totally in favour of the postal vote. In fact, we should have e-voting. So it doesn't really matter if it's postal vote or not, or what. I don't know. But anyway, Reform thought they'd won it in the morning, but then when the count started, they felt they'd lost it, and the betting markets thought they'd won it as well. So really, but I think they'll win it next year at the thingy, you know, because the area will have changed more since then, and people will have time to think. Like I say, on one issue, on the main issue, which I think we should be voting on, the only issue, Plaid Cymru are worse than Labour. So are SNP and the Greens. They're worse than Labour. So yeah, that's probably all I've got to say about that. So we'll see how it goes.